Hey Jess, thanks so much for joining me to chat about your vitality activation session.
Oops.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you here. I'd love to hear how your experience was. So to start, I'd love to hear, yeah, just how were you feeling before the session and what were you experiencing during it? And how did that shift after our call too, in terms of how you were feeling?
Um, well, leading up to that session, I had a migraine for several days. And I still was dealing with the remnants of that. So I still had some pain and was just kind of washed out from the migraine and the medication. But I generally had been feeling really heavy for months. So that was just kind of an everyday thing for me, feeling really lethargic and just low mood and just a real heaviness. And it didn't seem to matter what I was doing. I couldn't quite shift it. So that's how I was feeling coming into it. And then whilst we were doing I noticed it took me a while to kind of connect, to really get in there and drop into the feeling in my body and connecting with my intuition. But when I did, it just kind of, I could feel things moving. Like I could feel the pain that was in one side of my head. I could feel it kind of shifting into my neck. And then it was all centered around the throat, which, it connects to a lot of things for me, but I realized that that was an emotional thing. And then that led to, I think, what I actually released in the session was feeling how things were connected. So, yeah. And then afterwards, when I first came out of it, I was kind of, like I mentioned to you before, I was kind of blissed out. It was like a really kind of like nice woozy feeling, which I haven't
Yeah.
experienced after a meditation before. But then I went and spoke to my husband right afterwards, and I didn't mention this before, but he was asking me about it, how it was and what I was doing. And I told him, and I just had this kind of welling up of emotion that needed to be released. So I basically just burst into tears when he asked me how it was. And then I sort of talked him through what had happened and what I felt I was getting out of it, which I then kind of processed through the week. But what I noticed was just the heaviness that I'd been carrying for literally months. I don't know how many months, but it's been a long time. It just felt like it had really lifted. And obviously it's a process. I'm still learning how to connect to my intuition, but I really felt like there had been just a massive shift for me. I hadn't connected in that way before. I hadn't been in a space that had allowed me to do that on that level. So it was really significant for me.
Yeah, wow. And I'm curious about that welling up of emotion. Did that feel like a natural, like part of your healing process? Did that feel like your body is just like kind of continuing to do its thing?
I think it did. Yeah, it felt like, because while we were doing it, I didn't feel emotional that I recall. I felt a lot of sensation, but I didn't feel, and I'm a very emotional person, so I'll cry a lot quite easily. But I didn't feel that naturally coming whilst we were doing it. But then it was almost like the whole process, whatever I'd gone through in the meditation, whatever had shifted, it then something needed to come out. So just having him ask me the question of, what happened, it just was all it needed. And then it was like lid was off.
Yeah.
So it was good, and it felt good. It felt like a good release after. So
Mm,
yeah.
beautiful. Yeah, and that's been a big part of my experience with healing. I'm curious if you resonate with this, that, a big part of healing, especially for us energy sensitive people, is like when that energy and that emotion can move, then our body responds really beautifully to that. And like that's where so much healing happens in the body. Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, definitely. And I think because I used to shame myself for being emotional and for crying or wanting to cry, so I used to button it up pretty tightly. and suppress everything. So, but I'm now learning to allow that to be the healing thing that it's supposed to be. So when it comes up, I just, I just go with it because I know that it's a good thing for my body, a good thing for my spirit. So
Mm.
yeah, so it definitely felt good.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, and is that kind of like allowing of the emotion, do you feel like that has shifted at all during our work together in terms of like, was it different before versus now that
Yeah,
we've done this session together?
yeah, definitely,
Mm.
definitely. I just feel like, I mean, through the whole program with you, but especially since doing that session, and I can't even fully put it into words. I just know that something massive shifted for me, because I've been feeling so different since then. And kind of, I had a few good days and I was like, okay, when I'm going to feel awful again. And, obviously I will have bad days, but I just can feel something almost like cellular level. Like I can feel something's different. Um, and there was kind of an acceptance that I was able to get to. And I think I just kind of physically had a realization of the things that I deal with and the fact that I don't have to hold on to. And I think I said this when we were in the session, like I don't have to, I don't need the pain anymore,
Mm.
which doesn't even fully make sense to me yet. So I'm waiting to kind of really understand that. But yeah, it was huge for me to see that, and it's kind of changed everything. So I'm sort of allowing things much more since then. I'm allowing the emotions, and I'm allowing whatever comes or doesn't come in a meditation. There's not so much pressure and judgment. I'm just being present with it
Yeah.
in a different way. So yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Thanks for sharing all that. I had chills. Amazing. Um, and I would love to know too, was anything different than like your usual, your norm, in the following days after that session? And I know you said your husband noticed something different about you.
Yeah, he could tell. I mean, even when I was talking to him afterwards, he could sense what a big deal it was, what I just experienced in myself. Um, but yeah, so he could see through the week. I mean, I just felt energized in a way that I haven't for a really long time. I felt inspired to do things that feel good, to allow myself to, have a bit of fun, or to do something that feels creative that I normally wouldn't give myself the space and permission to do, just because it felt good, rather than having, everything revolving around goals or achieving things. Yeah, and I felt so much lighter. I just, like I said before, I just felt like that heaviness that I was carrying with me, it was kind of like this shroud. And I know a lot of people experience that, especially if you have chronic illness. But it just felt like like I dropped it. It just fell away. So yeah, so it completely changed my mood. It changed how I felt physically. And I really enjoyed the week, and I've continued since then, and it's been over a week now, and I'm just enjoying things in a new way and feeling more present. Um, yeah, which just, it feels great not to have so much judgment on everything all the time. So
Yeah, that's huge. Amazing. Um, cool. And then, so we've kind of talked around your experience of the session, but I'd love to hear how you would describe your experience of the session. Maybe like paint a picture for people who have never had an experience like this before. So, how did it go for you?
um, yeah, putting it into words, I notice is challenging for me, but what it felt like to me doing the process of the meditation with you guiding, it felt like being held in a safe space, where I was kind of given permission and told that it was okay to really drop into my body, to really connect with my intuition. And I find it really different doing that on my own. So, and I'm still learning, and I hope that I will find that easier as time goes on. But it was something about you creating that safe space made all the difference for me, and also allowing the time. There was no, it was like a feeling of timelessness. And I think that's partly why I felt all blissed out afterwards. It was like being in another dimension or something, which sounds weird, but that's kind of how it felt when I came out of it. I remember when I opened my eyes, I was kind of like, whoa, what's going on? This is weird. But it was an amazing feeling. I just felt like I was floating, but I felt so connected to my body. And like I said, it took a little while for me to get there, but you created that sort of timelessness, and I was able to just really relax into it. There was no pressure. And because you weren't putting pressure, my brain wasn't putting pressure, which is what normally happens. And so I think that's what allowed me to really take the time that I needed to fully connect and really tap into what sensations were going on in my body. Not just the physical feelings, but the emotions that were going on. And that's where the connections happened. But I needed that time, and I needed someone to hold the space for me. So I think that's what made all the difference, really.
Yeah, amazing. Thanks for sharing that. Um, and of course, we can do like so many amazing healing practices on our own. And you kind of touched on this too, but I'm curious what else you would say about what the benefit might be of going through an experience like this. Being able to connect with your body really intentionally with a guide versus doing it on your own. Any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is, because I struggle with overthinking everything. So it's easy for me when I'm doing a meditation, even if I've got, the input, say from you in the one that I do with you, like you've told me how to go through it, but my brain just over does it, just over analyzes. And so I'm focusing on thinking through the questions or thinking through the body scan. And like I said, I'm practicing, so I'm hoping that that's getting better. But having you guiding it meant that my brain could really just take a holiday, and I could just really focus on my body. And I feel like it's rare that we manage to do that as humans. So it is easier. It does make a difference having someone guiding you through it. And I know that at least at this stage in my life, I wouldn't have been able to experience what I experienced if I was trying to guide myself, because I would have been too in my head.
Mm, yeah, totally relate to that. Thanks for sharing that. Um, yeah, and I'm curious too, so you were going through, I think you said like about a week kind of migraines beforehand, and you mentioned that like heaviness that you'd had for a very long time. So I'm curious what might have been different for you if you hadn't done this vitality activation together.
Well, I fully think that I still would be feeling that heaviness, because I've been in that state for such a long time now. I don't think I was able to get myself out of it without support and without some kind of experience like what you provided there. I think I would still be, I'd still be doing the things and trying to feel good and trying to connect, but something about the like I said, that safe space that you created, I think that's what allowed me to shift it. So if I hadn't done that session with you, I think I would still be battling with that. And
Yeah.
because that heaviness is lifted, I now feel like I'm better able to deal with everything else, and I'm better able to all the other work that I've been doing with you and other stuff on my own. I feel like I'm actually able to be more present with it and get more out of it because I don't have this weight on me. So yeah.
Yeah, that's huge. Awesome. Um, and just to wrap up here, what would you say to anyone who's on the fence potentially about doing a session like this with someone guiding the experience?
Yeah, I would say just go for it, to be honest. Like, give yourself that gift, because if you're anything like me and you struggle with these things and you've been, feeling like you're stuck in yourself for a long time, then just trust that having somebody there to support you and hold that space will allow you to feel safe enough to really connect with yourself. So, you know, I feel like, what would you have to lose? You know, I feel like
Yeah.
it's, you know, it's important, that that we give ourselves the support that's being offered, around us. And, you know, sometimes it's just hard to do these things on your own, at least initially. So you know, I feel like it really, and I've, you know, said it several times, but it makes all the difference having somebody else guide you through it, who's that, you know, that much further ahead in knowing how to connect, fully. So yeah, so I would say just absolutely go for it.
Beautiful. Thanks so much for sharing with me today. I loved our session together. I have to say, like, you know, from the outside perspective, I saw a huge shift in you. So yeah, everything you're saying feels really real to me. So yeah, so thank you for being present in that experience, and thanks for sharing with me today.
My pleasure.
Thanks. Bye.
Mhm.